So welcome again everyone. My name is Vineet. I live in Chandigarh with many of our monks here with 8 other monks, actually 8 including me, but the number keeps changing so I sometimes get confused. We have a big family, you might say. And I usually help with our activities in the Hindi Sangha. So I'm mainly involved with sharing Paramhansa Yogananda ji's teachings in Hindi language, and for that reason sometimes if you find me struggling for English words, please forgive me, because yesterday I gave a 3-hour class in Hindi, and then this morning I had a 2-hour class in Hindi, and then I have another 2-hour class in the afternoon in Hindi, and in the middle there's this English class, and it really knocked my brain out. I was searching for English words, and I'm still thinking in Hindi but I'm talking in English. So languages can do to you. It's not that I'm unfamiliar with either one of those languages. It's just that the switching can sometimes become hard if you've been inclined to think one way or the other. But having said that, I am willing, and here we are, and the topic is on willingness. And this is a very, very, very important topic, and very important not just on the spiritual path but in every aspect of our life actually. And like Swamiji says in this reading, and I'm going to refer to this reading in a few other readings many other times during our session today. He says that don't wait for favorable circumstances to awaken willingness in your life. And then he says at the end, often by this simple attitude, by training ourselves to say yes to life, he says, you will find success arriving unexpected at your door. And you might think, wow, just being willing, I can have success in my life, I can have whatever is needed in my life. And the truth is yes, because many times when we are trying to accomplish something, while we are really trying to use our concentration to do something, but there is sometimes a resistance, a lack of willingness, and there is a tendency to say, oh, if only it could have been easier, if only I didn't have to put so much energy. And there's this wonderful story, I think it sums up most of our life, and this is a story Swami Kriyananda ji has shared many times on how sometimes why we aren't willing, or why many times we don't succeed, because while we are wanting to go forward, we are also pushing ourselves backward. We are pushing the bus in from both directions, you might say. And what does that mean? The story will explain that. There was a time during the war, when the Indo-Pak war was going on, I don't know exactly when, but Swamiji says that his friend was in one of the buses, and he was going through a bus, and the place where he was traveling was very close to the border. And what had happened was, essentially, because they had to go in a very roundabout way, it wasn't like a proper road, it was a bus, and they were just going in a roundabout way. And suddenly what happened, because this was not a well-paved road, they ended up being on a riverbed or a lake, and somewhere the bus got stuck, and the driver said, well, the bus is not moving, I've tried everything I could, why don't you all get down from the bus and then push the bus so that I can accelerate and move the bus forward. And so everyone got down, and they started pushing the bus, and it was a full bus, people, so they started pushing and pushing and pushing, and the driver was like, the bus is simply not moving an inch. And imagine, I don't know how many people were there, but imagine 20 people moving a bus, it should certainly move forward, something should happen, but nothing was happening. And so the bus driver thought, something is strange, let me get down. And by the way, this is a true story. Swami Kriyananda ji said his friend had shared this with him. So the bus driver got down, and he said, what's happening? And you know what was happening? Half of the people were pushing the bus forward, and the other half were pushing the bus backward. So one half was behind the bus, and the other half was in front of the bus, and they were really pushing the bus in opposite directions. And guess what? Nothing happened, and the bus just stayed there. It did not move at all. And well, oftentimes this is what we do with ourselves in our lives. It's just like, yes, I want to accomplish this, but there's always this but which comes in our mind, and it is, like Swami Kriyananda ji said, the satanic pull of unwillingness he's talking about over here. And when I read that satanic pull of unwillingness, I was like, oh my God, he's like, unwillingness is just not unwillingness, it's satanic in nature. Why? Because it tends to pull our energy down. It wants us to just be comfortable where we are. It doesn't want us to move forward. It doesn't want us to accomplish things. And that's what happens in our activities, and it certainly happens oftentimes in our meditations when we really want to meditate and oh boy, I don't want to meditate. Maybe I'll meditate a little later, or maybe I'll have this meal and meditate, or maybe I'll go out and meditate, or maybe I'll meditate tomorrow. And then it goes on and on and on. And we all have different strengths and weaknesses to work on. For some people, well, meditation is not a problem. For some people, it can be like activity. Seva could be a problem. Tell me to meditate, I will meditate. Tell me to serve, I will not serve. I will not put out the energy. I am just happy meditating because God is meditating through me. But if you ask me to serve, I don't know if I can do that. I remember when I was very new at Ananda and I used to visit our center in Chennai, down south. I was studying for my chartered accountancy and I was also visiting the center and all that. And I used to go very early to the center just in case there was something to help. And so the Acharya there asked me, Vineet, would you like to help? I said, sure, why not? And he said, can you make coffee? And I was like, I don't know to make coffee. I don't drink coffee. So I was just like, I was all stammering. I don't drink coffee. I don't know to make coffee. Why should I make coffee? I don't understand coffee. Why do even people drink coffee? And he just looked at me very kindly and he asked me, would you like to learn to make coffee? And I thought about it for a moment and I said, sure, I can learn how to make coffee. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal in life to learn to do something. And it seems like, oh, it was just coffee. But for me, it was a big resistance. It was like, why should I do it? And we have different things in life. And often at Ananda, we find that we are offered seva or life actually, not just at Ananda. We are asked to do things in life which we are not pros at, which we are not experts at. And yet there we are, and life is asking us like, will you do this? And we can say, no, I don't do this. This is not my kind of thing. Or we could say that, yeah, I can learn. I'm willing. I could do this. And I've often seen that many times people just by willing, they can accomplish so much more than even people who might be perfect experts in a certain field, but they might have a certain resistance towards it. So just out of sheer act, and when I say willingness, okay, we have spoken so much about, I've used this word maybe 100 times already in the first 8 minutes. But what do we mean when we say willingness? To me, or to my mind, there comes an attitude of openness that, yeah, I don't want to go with a shut heart in my life. I'm open to possibilities in life. I want to say yes. I want to learn more. So having that faith of openness, that's one thing when willingness comes to my mind, the word willingness. The second thing that comes to my mind is trust and faith. Many times we are not willing to a new situation because we are like, this is uncharted territory. I don't think I can go forward in this because I don't have any clue of what this is about. But then guess what? That's what life is about. And having that faith, taking one step in front of the other, saying that, okay, I don't know how this works. I know it's uncertain, but I'll put one foot in front of the other. I will have the faith, I will have the trust. Who cares whether I succeed or not? And oftentimes it's not even about how well we do a certain thing. It's about, are we open towards doing it? Are we willing towards doing it? Just like I wasn't initially in making coffee, and then I learned to make coffee, and now I have coffee from time to time. I don't have a hesitation if someone asks me to make a coffee or something. But it's little things in life, like Swami Kriyananda ji, like I said, I'm going to refer to this reading again and again. Most people are willing or unwilling depending on their likes and dislikes. This habit tends to develop a bias toward unwillingness, which gradually becomes chronic and attracts to itself chronic failure. So yeah, I'm willing to give a class in Hindi because I'm comfortable with it right now because I've been doing too many things in Hindi, but I don't know if I'm willing to do a class in English because I'm not comfortable. I'm just giving an example over here, but we can have all kinds of likes and dislikes. It's just like I'm happy talking to this person because he's a sweet person or whatever, but this person, I don't want to deal with him. I dislike him. So no, I'm not doing this. Look for these little tendencies in your day-to-day life. Just see that, okay, is there, like, am I just withdrawing because I have a dislike towards it? Or, okay, no problem, let me put a step in front of the other. And trust me, there is a lot of willingness we have if only we were to tap that potential. I'm sure many of you have learned meditation, maybe some of you are even Kriya Yogis, and some of you have learned Paramhansa Yogananda ji's energization exercises perhaps, or at least heard about them. One of the very first principles we talk about when we learn the energization exercises is called the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. And when we say the word will, we say willingness. The greater the willingness, the greater the flow of energy. And when we say willingness and energy, and it's just like, yeah, it sounds like a good theory, but then yesterday we did a fun experiment. I was doing this class, like I was saying, and I was teaching the energization exercises. And we are going to do this experiment now that there is no limit to willingness. We can be as willing as we have to be. And we'll share a few stories, or I'll share a few stories about that. But let's do this fun experiment. Bring your right arm forward. And I'm sure you know the energization exercises where we tense the body and relax and all that. So right now we are going to bring our right arm forward, or whichever is your working arm, and just tense the whole right arm with maximum capacity. Just tense with all your willpower. Just tense with me. Okay, now you're at your maximum capacity of tension. Just add a little more tension. Just a little more tension. Let's add a little more tension. Okay, one last time. A little more. Okay, now let's gradually relax. Relax, relax, and relax. Now I don't know about you, but when we started, I said let's start at maximum tension. And then I said, let's add a little more tension. And we were able to add, at least I was able to add, despite being in my maximum, I was able to do maximum plus 1. Then I said a little more, and I was able to do maximum plus 2. I was able to add more energy. And then I said, okay, let's do even more. Let's add even more tension. And I was able to add even more. And you might say that this is my maximum, but we were willing to add more and more and more energy to our body. And there is no limit to that. As long as we are willing, there's always energy. Swami Kriyananda ji often offers this example. He said, let's imagine you've had a very long day at office. Then in the night you have your friends coming. You have a party. You watch movies. It's just a very relaxing time. You have a lot of fun. You talk a lot. It becomes late in the night, let's say midnight, but the friends came to your house. The dishes are there. It's dirty. The house is unclean. But then you're tired, it's midnight, and morning you have to go to office. So you go to bed, and then in the morning you barely wake up to make yourself to the office. You go to the office, and then guess what? The boss is upset with you, or your co-workers are upset with you, or such things happen in your life, and then okay, fine, you're just drained of your energy by the end of the day. You come back home, you open the door to your house, and you're like, oh my God, this house looks a mess. But then you're so tired that you just don't want to put out any energy. You're just like, no, this is it. I need to rest. I need to go to bed. And you're just about to go to your bed, your mattress, and your phone rings. And you see it's your close friend whom you haven't seen for years, whom you deeply love, whom you've missed for seeing for so many years. And then your friend calls and you pick the call, and he or she is like, hey, you know what? I'm in your town. Would you like to meet? Would you like to go out? And what is your answer going to be like? Of course, I want to meet you. It's been such a long day. Let's catch up. Now, the same person just a minute ago in our example was absolutely tired. And in the very next moment, he isn't. He has all the energy in the world to meet his friends. What was the difference in these two situations? It was a matter of willingness. So the more willing we are, and the person now could have applied the same energy and is like, okay, how excited I am to wash the dishes, how excited I am to clean my house. Nayaswami Jaya, who's our head monk, now he was married for 25 years before his wife passed on. His wife's name was Nayaswami Jaya, and Devashiji shares this story in good humor. He says that, I did not like washing the toilets in our house. It wasn't a fun task to do. And so one day, when he came back home, his wife was waiting for him with a very glowing face and very excited and thrilled. And she was like, she was just enthusiastic for no reason, just like a child. And she told, guess what we get to do today? And it was the cleaning day, and he knew it was the cleaning day in the house. And he was like, yeah, we get to clean. And he was like, yes, guess what? We get to clean the Guru's ashram, and we get to clean the toilet, and we get to clean the dishes, and we get to do this. And she just got a sense of excitement, and he was like, okay, fine, I'll play along with this enthusiasm and willingness. And he found himself just, changed with that, just with that enthusiasm. Like Swami Kriyananda ji has often said, and this is, I believe, the words of Dale Carnegie, to be enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. If we try to be like, no, I don't have the energy, I am tired, I don't know what life is all about, guess what? Even the happiest of circumstances, if they're trying to knock on your door, they'll just take an about turn and go back home, because no happy situations comes to a grumpy person. You try to talk to a person, you go to a shop sometimes to people, and they're like, bhaiya bread dena, aur kya chahiye, give me bread, aur kya chahiye, biscuit, aur kya, and they're just so busy and grumpy. But the same thing, if you go with a smile, sometimes I've found this, that if I'm happy and I'm just like, I'm not in a business mood, I'm like, how are you? How are you doing? Just to a person whom you're buying things with, just to your friend, after many years, I had a friend in my college. I did my college sometime in 2011 or so. It's been a long time. I'm getting old, but that's not the point of this satsang. But anyways, I was kind of the head of a department of commerce, and I had a friend who was the joint secretary, so she used to assist me. So we used to work in close quarters together, and for many years, almost 8 to 9 years, I did not work with this friend of mine, or never spoke with this friend of mine actually. She had moved to Germany, I was still living in India, I became a monk, she got married, she was in a different life, I was in a different life. We sometimes stayed in touch, but it wasn't much. But finally, just I think 4 months ago or so, I spoke to her on phone, and I was like, hello, how are you? And just the way I spoke to her, she was like, Vineet, you have changed. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, you would never ask people joyfully, how are you? You would never be enthusiastic in picking a call. Something has changed in your life. And I was like, I sure have changed. I've become more willing. I've become more enthusiastic. I've become more energetic. So just the way we talk can have a whole difference in perspective in life. So try to be aware of that also. When the energy goes low, when the energy starts sinking, try to be around people who have high energy. Try to be around people who are enthusiastic. There was a time when I was super, tired or something, and Nayaswami Jaya was visiting our center in Chennai, and all I had to do was open the door, walk into the center, and suddenly I'll be like, wow, where is all this energy coming from? Because she was energetic, she was enthusiastic, she would not let people sink down into low energy, and she would lift people up. And similarly, you need friends in life who can lift you up. Be in that environment, be in that atmosphere. Many times what happens, you call a friend and you're like, oh, you know what, this boss said this to me and I'm so tired. And the other friend, if he's a worldly person, he'll say, you know what, my boss said this thing and then this co-worker did this thing, and it becomes a mutual complaining call rather than helping each other. And I did this actually in my life. I was very upset with my superior, and I called my friend who was a Guru Bhai, and I said, I'm very upset, I'm coming home. I don't want to deal with this world. And he's like, don't worry, come home. And I walked inside his home, and he stepped out of the room. He did not talk to me, and I was like, what's happening here? Why is he not talking to me? And then I walked with him to the other room, and he left that room also. And I was like, why is he avoiding me? And then he picked up the harmonium and he started chanting. And he said, there is no amount of talking that can do any good to lift up our moods at this point of time. Why not just chant together and meditate together and lift up our energy? So don't try to reason it out, if you're finding any resistance, if you're finding anything which is pulling you down, just go for it. Just do some energization exercises, just meditate, just chant, just talk to someone, just watch a video of Swami Kriyananda, just listen to a book. There are many audiobooks which Swamiji recorded. Just listen to a piece of talk of Swami. Just listen to a chant of Swamiji. Just do an affirmation. There are so many tools which we have if we only allow it to be used. Now, I would like to read something from Swami Kriyananda ji's book, The Art and Science of Raj Yoga. This very same principle, many of us have learned this. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy, and I've spoken about this. But Swamiji says in this book, and it's very important. He says, to put it simply, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. Excuse me. There is literally no limit to the degree of will and therefore to the measure of energy that one can summon in any undertaking. Simply because a strong will is not limited by the actual potential of the body. Rightly applied, it draws directly on the energy of the universe. I say rightly applied, for to many people an exertion of willpower suggests a grim, tense kind of determination, an exaggerated awareness of obstacles and difficulties that implies a no vote from the subconscious, even while the conscious mind is affirming yes. This is what I was talking about. While we want to do something, the subconscious mind is like, no, it's thinking about obstacles, it is tense, it is like, I will do it. No, when we talk about willingness, we're talking about relaxation, deep state of relaxation. Swami Kriyananda ji in his life wrote 150 books, 400 pieces of music. He gave thousands of lectures. And then yet, you don't see him tense. I am going to accomplish this project. I am going to do this. See his talks. Watch his photos. He's just so relaxed. He's so himself. Because once we are willing, and I'll end this session by reading something which Swami Kriyananda ji said, but we'll go on with this reading for the time being. And this is the last para which I want to read on willingness. Willingness then might better suggest the kind of willpower intended here. In this sense, the axiom is as true for man's relationship to the cosmic energy as to the energy of his own body. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. Remember it, emblazon it in your mind, repeat it to yourself several times a day. This single truth can revolutionize your life. When I read that this single truth can revolutionize your life many years ago, I was like, I'm going to try it. And I kept, whenever I had a resistance in my day-to-day life, whether it was while driving or whatever, I would say, no, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. I'm willing. And whenever I found that there was a demand to my challenge, I was like, no, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. And guess what? I was much happier. And then I did an experiment, not an experiment actually, I was too tired by being willing, I guess. Because when you're too willing, then Divine Mother and God are like, okay, fine, do more, and do more, and do more, and do more. And you're like, whoa, wait, I'm willing, but I'm not too willing, just hold on. And that happened with me, and it happens to all of us, I guess. And I said, now I'm not being willing. I'm going to say no to everything that comes my way. And I was just like, no. People would have to just ask me, hey Vineet, I was just wondering, can you? No. Even before the person would finish the sentence, can you do this? So that I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. And you know what? The truth is I was very, very, very unhappy for those moments in my life when I was unwilling. And when I was willing, even though I had to put out more energy, even though it was a challenge, I was much more happier. Now, we have to be practical in life also. Swamiji says yes to life. That doesn't mean that we have to say yes to the choices in life. We have to say no to Maya. We have to learn to say no to things which are holding us back. We have to learn to say no to things which are not allowing us to grow spiritually. But we have to learn to say yes to life. That whatever comes of itself, Paramhansa Yogananda ji used to say, let it come. Do not say, oh, if only it could have been this way. Another way to look at willingness is acceptance. I accept whatever comes to me as an opportunity for further growth. Just like we read it sometime back in the affirmation. So have that attitude of, yeah, I accept, I'm willing, I will do this. But again, coming to the aspect that, yeah, we have limited time in hand sometimes, and sometimes we don't have for example, I'm doing a class now from, I'm doing this satsang from 9 to 10. I cannot say to another class from 9 to 10. It is not possible unless I can be the saint with two bodies in Autobiography of a Yogi. That would certainly make it easier, but right now that's not possible. And there was a point in my time where I took this principle too literally, where I was like, I'll say yes to everything that comes. And you know what happened? I was willing, it helped me grow, but after a point I got overwhelmed, and I spoke to Devarshiji, our head monk, and I was like, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm tending to do too many things at one point of time. He said, there should be an attitude of willingness, but sometimes in life we have to outwardly say no. That, somebody is asking, like 10 people are asking you to do 10 things, but you can put your energy only one thing at a time. But the good thing is, by putting our energy on one thing at a time, we can then switch gears. We can move energy then to the second thing, then to the third, then to the fourth. But if we try to do all the 10 things at one point of time, we are going to accomplish nothing. So that is also something which we have to be really concentrated upon, that yes, I'm willing, but when I'm willing to do something, let me be completely focused in that. Let me put my whole energy into that, and then let me move to the next part, then next, and then next. Oftentimes people make a big deal about saying yes. They're like, oh, just like I made a big deal with that coffee making. Don't. It's not helpful. When like Sister Gyanamata, Paramhansa Yogananda ji's most advanced women disciple, she was very sick. She was very ill at one point of time. She was very old, and Paramhansa Yogananda ji asked one of the disciples to ask Sister Gyanamata to do something. And Sister Gyanamata received the call, and she is like, say yes and make it snappy. Just say yes, because when we start thinking, we are like, oh, you know what, I don't know, maybe, just stop that maybe, stop it right there. Just say yes and make it snappy and move forward. I have told many times, I've suggested to people, can you help this on with Seva, or can you do this or do that? It might be just, sending a simple email or making a phone call which might take 5 minutes, and people are like, I will meditate on it and I'll see if Master wants me to do it. Well, my friend, yeah, sure, it's a good thing, but it's just a 5-minute thing. Might as well say yes and move forward. And I'll say the story, and probably after that I'll do the reading, which I was intending to. It's not that we have to be perfectionists in life. When we are willing, we attract to ourselves in life whatever we need in our life. When we are willing, we attract more energy. When we attract more energy, we attract more, our magnetism increases, and as our magnetism increases, we attract deeper things in life which we actually need. Whatever we need, whenever we need it. And for example, when the monks moved to Chandigarh, some of you may know, we used to live in Khandala when the pandemic started, and then in the middle of the pandemic, sometime in 2020 October, we moved from there and we moved to Chandigarh. When we moved to Chandigarh, it was a direction, and all the monks were willing. It was a decision of a few of them, the head monk and everyone, but everyone was willing. It's not like everyone knew. Some of us hadn't even been to Chandigarh our whole life. I had never stepped into Chandigarh. I don't know what I was getting into. But I was like, no, I'm willing. And then we moved, and the goal was to find a piece of land to build the monastery. We did not know where are we going to find a piece of land. We did not know what was happening. I would tell a few friends of mine that I'm moving to Chandigarh. They're like, wonderful, when are you moving to Chandigarh? I said, I have no idea. Okay, where in Chandigarh are you moving to? I said, I have no idea. And they were like, why are you moving to Chandigarh? I said, maybe to buy a piece of land. He's like, oh, so you found a piece of land for the monastery? I said, no. Do you know where are you going to get it? I was like, I have no idea. And it's just like, wait a second, are you nuts? Like, are you making your whole life decision based on nothing? But see, here's the thing. I have faith, I have trust in our head monk. He tuned into something. He said, let's move to Chandigarh, and we are a group. I was willing, and many others were willing, and we were like, okay, fine, let's move this big leap. Let's move from one place to another. And it wasn't like perfect. Where we moved, we thought that we would buy a piece of land somewhere in this area, but it wasn't so. We ended up, finding a piece of land in the exact opposite direction of where we thought it to be. And then of course we moved up again. In the last 2 years, I've changed 2-3 houses already. But the point being that if we are willing, we will attract things in life. It doesn't have to be perfect. For example, the Chandigarh center, we started with a small center, and in a month we attracted a bigger center. Similarly, maybe you don't have the perfect job today. Just go whatever comes along your way and then go for it, and then keep being willing, keep doing the good job. You know, there was a disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda ji who was asked to do gardening every single day, and he hated gardening. He hated going out in the morning and pouring water. And he said, if I'm going to be grumpy all my life, and this was his job every day in the morning, he was like, I hope I get something else. And this was the job assigned to him. And then finally, he said, okay, if this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I'm going to be willing, I'm going to be enthusiastic, and I'll do what is needed to be done. And guess what happened? He showed up and they said, guess what? Don't do gardening today, do this something else. And his whole life situation changed. So many times our life lesson might be just being willing, just being accepting of what needs to be done. And this is a reading, I will say, which Swami Kriyananda ji, he was talking about Hanuman somehow. He gave a talk. This is the only talk which Swamiji gave about Hanuman, and I was somehow interested and I was reading it yesterday. So Swamiji writes, this is the purpose of all scriptures. This is the great lesson in the life of Hanuman, that he himself was just a monkey. And Swamiji says, I am just a fool. But look what he could do. Over here what Hanuman could do. God can do so many things through each one of you, if you will let him to. The willingness part is very important. If you will let him to, he can do many things through you. We must understand that we have to work with him. It isn't that he does it, we have to do it, but we have to draw on his strength and his inspiration. And I have seen this happen again and again in my life. When I knew I couldn't, but then I would say to my guru inwardly, but you can do anything. And I would find suddenly I had the strength, the understanding, and the wisdom to do everything that I had to do. So, we have the strength to do everything that we have to do. It's all a matter of being willing, being open, having the faith in God and gurus, being enthusiastic, having the right company. So anyways, it was a joy, being with all of you today. And how about we take our time together and whatever inspiration we have received and share it with all the world. And we will rub our palms together and then we'll chant Om 3 times. Let's pray. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, great masters of self-realization, may Thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken Thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Wishing you a very joyful and willing day. Thank you. Bye-bye.